Hello there, and welcome back to Sweet Child of Time, where the wheel of time turns and ages come to pass. And this is not the beginning of our podcast, because this is like episode 140 or something, but this is a beginning of this episode. We're going to be talking about the cold open of season 3, episode 1. This is an episode called 3.1 because they haven't released the title yet. So for right now, we're going to call this one 3.1. And we're also going to psychoanalyze that Matt video that was released a couple weeks back that you know what I'm talking about, the promo Matt video for season 3. But with me for this one, this guy's been with me since the beginning of the podcast. So let's bring in the sweet child himself. I mean, he's here. It's rapper Marshland Monster, but you know him as James McCullum. Ahoy there, James. Welcome.
Chips ahoy, find water and shade.
I've been gathering water, gathering shade. I have so much of it to offer. Have you been gathering your water and shade?
Water, yes. Shade, no. I guess, my hair's gotten longer since the last time we've talked, and that gives shade. That's
right. I was having some problems like looking into the direct sunlight the other day when I was outside, and I got a little help and got some hair over my face, and that really helps a little bit. Like when you angle it I have long enough hair now where I can angle it just right. The shadow will fall over this eye. Not a bad thing.
Yeah. And I've been gathering this shade. Hey, guys, if you've been listening to the 100 Years of Solitude, man, let me throw some shade at Ding Dang Steve over here.
Oh, no. What?
This man tried to convince me that show was, in quotes, fun, a fun time. And then I hear him constantly be like, yeah, man, they get strangled with, some rope. Yeah, they die. He loved music and he killed himself with a piano wire. It's wild. And I was trying to figure out people's names, so I looked on the Wikipedia and I saw a late, probably final chapter of the book spoiler. And I'm like, this is the most depressing thing I have ever seen, heard, or visualized in my mind. And now it's in my mind. I can't get that out of my head now. Guys, 100 Years of Solitude. Certified fun.
Maybe fun wasn't the right adjective for it, but I mean, I do enjoy watching it, and I think that is a fun thing.
I'll say maybe is also not the right adjective. It definitely wasn't the right adjective.
Well, you haven't given it a fair shake. You've only listened to us talk about it. You haven't actually seen it. And you've heard us talking. This show spurns a lot of conversation. So there's so much to talk about and digest, and Lindsey and myself have different perspectives and different ideas of what some of these things mean. And so it is a great conversation starter. I think it's fun for that reason. And I also think it's fun to watch characters go through weird shit. I mean, for me, that's an interesting, fun watch. Like, for example, the first example I can think of off the top of my head is Bad Santa. I mean, everybody's seen Bad Santa with Billy Bob Thornton, and he plays this drunk, depressive Santa Claus. And he's a pathetic guy, and you don't want to root for him, and he sucks. And it's so much fun watching him. So that's the perspective I'm coming from.
That's a comedy. It's meant to be fun, whereas this doesn't. It also, I don't want to hear family politics because that's something I just want to get out of entirely. I'd love to resign from family politics, but I can't. And actual politics. So I'm like, no, Steve. I don't. So I posted a TikTok for the Chicago Comics TikTok thing that, hey guys, here's the new Invincible stuff we're restocking. There's all these single issues from first printing stuff. Like, hey, come and get it. But hey, don't ask me about the show. Don't ask me about the comics. My wife has seen it and she said, hey, you're not going to like this. And then this person comes in the comments and says, no, it's just she doesn't like it. You'll like it, bro. And I never said Nicole likes the show. She's seen all of it, but she knows me. And she's like, this is stuff you would not like, very much like The Boys. She's watched The Boys and says, James, you will not like this. And I'm like, from the stuff I've seen and stuff I've heard about, I would despise this show. Not because it's a bad show, but because I'm like, oh, Homelander doesn't die season 1. What are they doing then? So I think 100 Years of Solitude just isn't for me. And then you saying like, hey, James, it's fun. I'm like, I don't think you know. We have different descriptions of fun.
We do have different descriptions of fun and things we enjoy, but there is things that we both enjoy. And there's some things that are just kind of like universally enjoyable for lack of better term. And
like a donut.
Like
is
a
100
donut,
Years of Solitude a donut?
I would say 100 Years of Solitude is more like a lobster dinner, because not everybody can afford lobster. Not everybody wants to eat lobster. Some people are allergic to lobster. Some people like just straight up avoid fish and meat altogether. I think it'd be like a lobster dish.
Okay, well, I'm not really into lobster dish, so I'd rather have a can of chili beans and some tortilla chips.
All right. Well, yeah, I think I asked you what you've been up to, and you talked about 100 Years of Solitude. I don't think that's exactly what you've been up to, but I'm going to steer the conversation back to Wheel of Time land, because we got season 3 coming up. And when we first started recording, James, you and I, there was not a lot of podcasters out there talking about the show, and especially recapping the show. Of course, you got your Dusty Wheels, your Atop, your Talk Around Royade. These are like YouTube shows that are very popular. And, we couldn't even begin to compete with them. But even they weren't doing recaps of the show. They were talking about the show and, discussing it. But I think we were the only ones that were show focused. Now the show has really caught into the public eye. Season 1 was hampered because of the pandemic and a lot of negative press. Season 2 was hampered because of there was a strike either for the writers or for the actors. They weren't able to do any promotion for season 2. So that hampered it. But now it's everywhere. And there's lots of Wheel of Time podcasts and YouTube channels. Everybody is covering this thing. So we're kind of way down in the back. And that's why I say at the beginning, we're back doing this, because people might not have heard us for a while talking about Wheel of Time. We got 12 minutes of an episode we can discuss here. And that's what I want to go into, is this first 12 minutes, which is really nice. We're sitting here February 25th right now is our record date. And the show's not going to come out until like March 15th or 18th. But we can already talk about this first 12 minutes and get a feel for how season 3 is. First off, James, you saw it too. Let me know your impressions and how you're looking forward to season 3.
So you brought up how this show's becoming more into the public eye based on the comments. Yes, that was one of my notes. I was looking in the comments for the trailer, the Matt thing, and this 11 minutes. I don't think it's the first 11 minutes, because you can see a cut, and there's probably it would be weird if we started with this. I'm not saying this is bad, but if we just jump cut to like this, maybe there's a recap before then, and then it makes more sense, because
this is called the cold open. That's what this has been referred to as, is the cold open to season 3.
Okay, hey, if anyone's listening, maybe change up an order, unless you have a very large recap that blends right into what's going on. Because I was a little bit lost, but then quickly was, oh yeah, this all happened here and there. Yeah, man, this rules. It's so good. There's one thing that both Nicole and I said, hey, if this person ends up being this type of person, boo on the production. And that happens. We'll get into it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm curious what you're talking about there. I mean, I thought this was great, action-packed. We get to meet up with everybody. But as you know, like, I'm not much of like, it's not that I don't like action, but when I'm podcasting and recapping it, it's like I'm pausing every 4 seconds because something significant happens. And then I pause it because like immediately something significant happens after that. There's a lot of fast things happening at once. And so I trying to capture all these little individual movements while I'm recapping this. So a lot of pausing was happening. So the first time I watched this, I just watched it through and I was like, wow, I caught on to it right away. And like, it captured my attention. I was glad to see some characters coming back, and I was glad to see some directions that they're going. But when it came to recapping this, I much prefer recapping these nice scenes when they're riding their horses down the road and they're having a conversation about the old days.
See, that's where we defer, because when I see an action scene, I'm like, wow, I only had one note for this 11-minute thing. Whereas when people are talking, I'm like, hey, remember when they said that? It kind of sounds like this, huh? But I'm more color commentary and you are the other kind of commentary, play by play.
And we're perfect together like peanut butter and jelly. Is that what the two things are?
Yeah. Well, don't act like you have 2 children. You know what peanut butter and jelly are.
I'm being cheeky. I'm just pretending, James. But yeah, let's get into this 12 minutes if I may. I'm just going to go note by note because, of course, my notes are in nice order here. The first thing we're seeing is Moraine and Lan standing outside. Thank goodness. Thank the light, as people in Wheel of Time land say. And as we see them outside silently, we see Swan Sanche, Moraine's old sweetie. She's overlooking the city of Tar Valon. She's got a big meeting she's about to have in the hall. So she's got some big brain thinking going on, very pensive. And this is what I wanted to stop and ask you, James. You live in the 3rd largest city in North America. So like lots of tall buildings around there. Do you ever stand on top of one of those buildings and like look pensively out? And maybe today, did you do that and like think about our podcast upcoming?
I'm terrified of heights.
Me too.
My last corporate job, we went from a 3-story building to a 23-story building.
Whoa.
And we were on, I believe, the 23rd floor. So for maybe 2 months, I'm like, I cannot have a cubicle at the end nearest the window. I will have a panic attack. And they're like, okay, all right. So yeah, I wouldn't do this. Okay. I've gotten a little bit better at it. However, Steve, you've been to my apartment. Mm-hmm. Where are there tall buildings around?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like when I came to your apartment, I drove past the city, like maybe like 10 minutes away.
It's noon. How? Steve, I'd have to have a 30, 40-minute train ride, go up on a tall building, and America, get your stuff together. Put fences on top of buildings like other countries do. Ugh. And like make it so much so that if like I tried to jump over it, I'm not going to be able to jump over it. That's how tall or stable these things need to be. But yeah, man, I'm not going on top of that's terrifying.
So the answer is no. You did not go on top of a building and think about the upcoming podcast. I did not either. I want to be straight up front. I didn't do the same thing either. I've just been preparing here in my room and in my living room in the other place. We'll leave it to Swan to do that thinking.
You didn't have to retile some shingles up on the roof today?
No, I wonder if like she like when she's up there, she's magical. She's one of the most powerful Aes Sedai ever. If there's like ever like any problems around up there, like, you know, things happen, winds, birds. She's ever like up there like, hey, I could fix that real quick before I go down. Or she like leaves it to the underlings, like the, you know, the level 1 Aes Sedai who are still in the white. She makes one of them go up there and do it.
No, she's type A. She's going to be, changing up. I'll do this real quick. And I've said if I had superpowers, if I could move things with my mind, if I had super strength, construction, that's what superheroes in reality would be doing.
Absolutely, yeah, because you look at these tall buildings and weird, not just tall buildings, but buildings that are in odd places on mountaintops, on cliff sides. That's like the most logical way to do it is with superpowers. Yeah. Otherwise, you got to get all these machines up there.
Yeah. Oh, I can blow fire from my hands. You'd be working in the Great North trying to, we need to lay some track down. Oh, but it's frigid out. We can't. Or you work for a cemetery during the wintertime. You make sure the grave plots are nice and warm. And then, they can dig and they don't have to have a body there for 2 months.
We saw in Wheel of Time, we saw them, or maybe it was Game of Thrones. I think we saw someone dig a grave in frozen earth, and it looked really tough to me.
Yeah, that sounds like Game of Thrones.
It is more Game of Thrones, I think. I think it was the mountain I was thinking of that was doing that. Anyway, let's get back on topic.
Real quick, here's an update. Nicole, in relation to Game of Thrones, tried watching Game of Thrones.
You did or Nicole did?
Nicole did.
And how far did she get?
I think it's halfway into the first episode and said, nuh-uh.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those shows that you get hooked on episode 8. Season 1, episode 8. That's the hooking point. And if you make it up to that point, you're guaranteed to be a show fan. Like I'm watching a show right now. I'm in season 2 of watching The After Party, a little more lighthearted comedy show. And didn't really like episode 1. Episode 2 was okay. Episode 3 was outstanding. And there's no way I'm not going to continue watching this show. So sometimes you just got to stick it through.
That's my rule. 3 episodes, and if I'm not hooked by then, I jump off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would recommend to anybody to watch Game of Thrones at least up to season 6.
At least up until season 6. Then, if you're not feeling it by then, jump off. It's because then it's gonna tank harder.
Well, that's true. Some shows just don't end well, and this one will hopefully end wonderfully. Wheel of Time.
It looks like it's gonna be great, guys.
Okay, we're going to hit back to the tower now. So we saw Swan. She was looking pensive. We're back in the tower. We got Liandrin. Not only is she one of Steve's favorites of the show all time, but she's also been caught last season by Egwene. Yeah, Egwene and Nynaeve as a dark friend. And so they have seen her. So she's not like been busted yet, but people know on the periphery that she's a dark friend. So she's being seen before the hall now.
Can you remind me, how did they see her do that? How do they know she's a dark friend?
She was using the ways, and she was involved in the slavery with that other sentient army. And she was providing Egwene and Nynaeve and Elena slaves. Now. Okay, so another thing we got to remember, because we get introduced to a lot of people here in the first few minutes. It's like a big reunion party. We got Alana, she's in green, and she's got her 2 Waters, Maxim and Ivan. Of course, we see Liandrin, and we don't see a Lydia this scene, but we do see Leanne. She's the one with the clang, clang, clang pole. We see Verin. She's not in the hall, but she's skulking about with her cool gray streak in her hair with her buddy Adelaus is her name, and they have a red friend with them too. Her name is Naomi. We've seen her. She was around last season too. They're a bunch of librarians. And then we got Joiya Sedia. She's from last season too. We saw some glimpses of her. She's the one with the bald head. And we see Nynaeve at one point.
Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing.
Some James and Nicole will have with this.
All righty. So we see lots of sisters, but these are the ones that we know their names, or the ones that I just said, which is maybe like a dozen. We see like maybe 3 or 4 dozen sisters. All of these sisters have their own story, and they all have their own names, and it's not just background players. We have a depth of characters, and we're probably going to meet them all in future seasons, I'm sure. But for right now, we're focused on these few. So I don't like this next part. They go to they being Liandrin and her crew, the Reds, they go into the hall, and they're stopped by Leanne and her big clang clang pole. And she's like, no Reds except for Liandrin, because we got to talk to her, but none of y'all can hear. Outside, no listening. I kind of thought that was a bad idea. Like immediately I thought it was a bad idea when I was watching it the first time through. And I thought that set a really bad precedence. And I want to know what you think about that.
I think this entire thing was mismanaged and handled poorly, because I would have been like, hey, I know these select people are good. They're not Black Aja. So yeah, let's keep them here. Or be like, hey, we know a bunch of these people who aren't Black Aja. Let's get all of them in here. Maybe also open it up for warders, because shit might go south, because it does instantly. And they're like, oh yeah, we're superpower, we're going to be fine. Or they are underestimating how many Black Aja there actually are in these high positions. But yeah, not handled well.
Totally agree. I'm glad you said all that, because I was going to say pretty much the same thing. Wasn't handled as well as it should have been. And she should have been more prepared for danger. I mean, I think she left the Reds out there because she was like, these other Red Aja might be on her side. So they might, raise a stink. And I think that's the reason they were left out. But I think they should have been more like, y'all are observation only, or something like that.
Yeah, which sucks, because they aren't. They would have been on all the other side to be like, oh, the Aes Sedai is who we roll with, not the Dark Friends.
Right. Yep. So yeah, she comes in there, and before Swan can even begin, what she had, because she's in charge. She's like the president, pope, whatever you want to call. Like she's the queen. She's the armorill in seat. before she can even get into it, Leandrin interrupts her and's like, hey, I got some shit to say first. She talks to the group about how she found a man who can channel the dragon reborn and Swan let her go. And that apparently is like, obviously that's kind of like one of the White Tower's main mission is to like aid the dragon reborn when they find him, bring him in and make sure he's on their side. So letting him go is like a huge violation of like anything they stand for. So Leandrin's kind of right here. She has kind of a leg to stand on, but she's wearing that red and black. I wanted to point out the red and black dress before we move on. She's got that red and black dress, half red, half black. Wonderful foreshadowing. I didn't notice that until my second watch.
Mm-hmm. And my guess is they let him go because they're like, there's probably a lot of black Aja here, right?
They don't exactly specify why they let him go. So I'm going to wait until maybe a couple episodes in before we have that discussion.
Heck yeah, that would be my guess. They're estimating it might not be as safe there, especially with kind of how radical people are right now towards the Dragon Reborn of like, no, every man saying this is not, they're just false. Mm-hmm. We're not going to believe them. So unless it's kind of like maybe the second coming has come and, maybe David Koresh, not David Koresh, the Branch Davidians. No, yeah, it's David Koresh, right?
Him. Yeah.
Maybe he was the second coming and we just lit him up,
Mm-hmm. Well, they did kind of explain a little bit of this because this is like the Dragon Reborn and them finding Rand and then helping him get trained up for the last battle. This is a secret mission that only Swan and Moraine know about. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, Leandra does kind of have a leg to stand on. Some of the reasoning for that is so that they can help train him. And the prophet Jatara had some more words of wisdom for them that made them believe that keeping it from the White Tower was in everyone's best interest for now.
Oh, yeah, man, yeah.
Right or wrong.
Yeah, I also just want to say, like, David Koresh, bad guy, okay?
We're aware. Killer guitar player, but bad guy.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he rips, dude. He was like, they had like a Christian rock band to like get new members in. That's how they recruited members with their rock music. And
that I did not know.
You should definitely check out some of the David Koresh music that I think's on Spotify, I believe.
You want to know, me and you, that's what we need to do. We'll start a band, go around and just recruit people in the way, like, hey, don't follow us like a religious figure, but follow us like you think we're really cool.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm already starting to do that now around here in Richmond. You haven't started this already?
No, I don't leave the apartment. Come on.
Well, I mean, I don't either. I mean, I have the tools of the internet at my fingertips.
No, but we need to leave the apartment if we're really going to do this.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I'll go hang out in front of Guitar Center. I think it's the best place to snag some dudes.
All right.
Well, let's see. Leandrin, she has a little plan up her sleeve here. She has a planned attack. This is where our action starts, right, James? Nynaeve comes in. She's called in wearing white. And as soon as Leandrin clocks Nynaeve, she automatically knows that she's been caught. Like up until now, she's like playing around, but the sight of Nynaeve is like, I can't get through this. Time to move, time to accelerate the plan. Notice how they link their powers together. You probably noticed when she was like, ladies, link with me. And then they can make big explosions happen. I wanted to remind you that you, James, probably not the listeners, but Nynaeve, Egwene, and redheaded Elaine, our new friend from season 2. These are the most powerful sisters that are ever around. Like their power is off the charts. Before these three, it was Moraine and Swan who were like the most powerful Aes Sedai out there. But even their powers, Moraine and Swan's powers, like pale in comparison to our new 3 girls.
Okay.
So when you see these older ladies linking, they're combining their powers so that they can equal up, more powers. Whereas the 3 super girls that we know them as, they don't need to do that kind of crap. They're strong enough.
But if they did, wowie zowie.
We might want to keep that in mind.
They might be able to, take down an entire army coming at a big wall. Because that happened.
It already happened. So yeah, no spoilers. Spoilers if you haven't even watched season 1, which why are you listening to this? Nynaeve doesn't have any power. When this whole battle starts up, she tries to get into the action, but like something stops her. And I don't know why. I don't see any reason why she wouldn't have a power. Do you have any guesses about that?
Well, when you're trying to make a beat or something and it's just like nothing's coming together, it's like that.
Well, remember last season where she was like, she couldn't channel unless she was like really mad and she was having a hard time doing it. But then she kind of got a handle on it after a while. Mm-hmm. You think maybe she just wasn't like in the mood, or like she couldn't access it, or was somebody blocking her?
Oh, okay. Someone might be blocking her.
I mean, that's my guess, but I honestly don't know the answer. But that's the only thing I can possibly guess, is that Leandrin blocked her knowing that she can, power up. She gets crushed by some pillars, apparently. We don't see Nynaeve after this scene. We just see a bunch of pillars fall down. Mm-hmm. Perhaps she's under them. I don't know. And then at this point, the dudes are like knocking on the door, but they're just kind of like, I don't know why they're not trying to put their shoulders into it.
They were pounding at it, Steve.
I beg you to go back and rewatch, because they were like just using their wrists. They weren't even putting their whole shoulders into it.
Well, because they know that it's magically divine. So they're like, hey, they're just trying to get their attention on the other side, saying like, hey, what is going on? Someone, I know like stuff's going down, but if anyone can unlock this door real quick, that will give you a fighting chance. But we can't unlock this. None of us have that magical power.
That's right. Some ladies with some magical power come up behind them. We see what we think are some good guys. Are we at that point yet? Let me make sure.
Well, I want to say, while you're looking at that, back in season 2, Nicole and I saw an actress with alopecia, and we were like, awesome, hell yeah, representation. But then Nicole said, but if they make her evil eventually, then it's null and void, because that's the biggest thing with actors with alopecia. Oh. It's like, hey, we're going to make them evil because, you see that and they're evil, right? And yeah, guys, unfortunately, can't say this is a win because, yeah, she's Black Aja.
See, I was looking at it a different way. See, I already knew that she was going to be Black Aja. When we talked about this last season, I just kind of kept quiet because you made these same assertions last season. Like, I really hope she turns out good. And I was like, yeah, I hope so too. Knowing that she was going to be evil. I think you're absolutely right. But I would also beg you to look at some individuals like The Rock. These are not alopecia people, but these are people with bald heads that are very predominant and popular in pop culture. And these guys represent pretty well, like the good guy stature. And like,
how many of them are bald women?
I know. I just saw one recently on Reddit. she's a model, and she's not an actress. She's a model, and she's beautiful.
Okay, so we are specifically talking in fiction.
Okay.
If you see like a straight up bald woman, most likely she will be the antagonist. And Steve, I'm just going to tell you, Nicole has looked into this. She's been dealing with it for 2 decades. She knows that there's not any good representation to her knowledge in fiction of like, you see a bald woman, they're evil. Like that's generally what is going to happen. Or they're like a swashbuckler, etc.
Let's go back to when you were asking me if 100 Years of Solitude was fun or not. And I say it's fun. I think bad guys are fun too. Leandrin is like in my top 3 of favorite characters of this show. I love her and I have fun watching her, even though I hate her. That's the only defense I can give, is that I like the bad guys. I like the fact that, because the few times that I pause the screen, I'm seeing her, Joiya Sedia, and she has this look on her face and she's like wielding her magic and she looks cool as hell.
Yeah, like Nova from Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm like, Nicole, I guess this is my thing now. But it's not bad guys. It's when you see one person and they are always a bad guy, people will be like, well, those are bad guys. Or it's just saying maybe people who are bald want to play a good guy. Like that's the thing, is when media is pigeonholing you just to be bad people, then you are going to be perceived as a bad person.
Yeah, I mean, these are great points. I mean, That the only defense I had before was that, I think she's cool. And that's not really a great defense because you're absolutely right. She's evil and like that is bad representation.
Also, like, we're weird. Of course, we're going to think that person's badass and cool, whereas other, like, normies probably are just going to be like, yeah, they're evil. Like, I'm not excited for Nova from Deadpool and Wolverine, even though I was in the theater like, holy shit, I can't wait to go home and look at pictures of this.
But there is a little bit of, it's kind of related because we see first off, Leandrin's crew inside the hall because no other Red Sisters are allowed. Mm-hmm. She already has a crew. She's got some blues, some greens, some yellows on her side. So that right there is like, it doesn't help Nicole. It doesn't help anybody with alopecia. Doesn't help the Joiya Sedia thing, but it does kind of show in the mix a little bit where you always think of the blue Aja as the quote unquote good guys, but you have some bad ones here. Mm-hmm. And on the flip side of that, while Maxim and Ivan are like weekly knocking on the door gently, there's some red Aja that are hanging out there with them. And these red Aja are obviously sisters that are not black Aja, and they're on the good guy side because one of them gets blown away. So obviously she gets blown away by one of the bad guys. Yeah. And then another one is trying to help the warders. So there's a little bit of like, who is good, who is bad. It's unclear. And then we also have, just to add to what you're saying, we have an actor of shorter stature in this show. We got Naomi, and she turns out to be a bad guy too. So I wonder, what our friend Sarah Darkin thinks about that. Like the representation we have in the show, Naomi is like showed as just like, an Aes Sedai, just like everyone else. And now the only one of short stature is evil too. So it kind of is the exact same thing, James.
Well, I've heard people say like, oh, you get pigeonholed if you are a little person into like, hey, I'm like the magical little person. Like, hey, I'm happy-go-lucky. And, like Peter Dinklage, him just being able to play anything besides that or just like, hey, he's the top shit. I think
an elf, yeah.
I think this is in a good direction, but also like maybe this dark friend, this black Aja is maybe they're a turncoat for the black Aja. We don't actually. That's really bad because then it's like, oh well, you kind of killed, or maybe we find out like, oh, was slowing the killing of their friends. We don't know, but it's just it was brought up last season, so I had to bring it up now, and then also defend, especially Nicole's point, which is it's always bad. Like in the Dungeons and Dragons movie, which I did fall asleep to, so I'm going off, not because it was bad, because I was too high. Yeah. Nicole's like, yeah, of course the bald woman is the evil person. I don't know. It's complicated. And if Nicole were here, she would have more articulate points to make.
Yeah, you did a great job defending her. I got to say, you're being a true gentleman, and yeah, you've done a great job defending your point, and I can't push against it because I mostly agree with you, even though I'm going to stand by my point, and I think she's cool, and I'm going to.
Well, cool is different than evil people are cool.
Well, what else is cool is this is a moving on segment.
Let me say, evil people in fiction are cool.
Exactly. That's exactly what I mean. Like, I don't like anybody. Yeah, that goes without saying, James.
You were defending David Koresh as a rock and roller a little bit, okay? So maybe not. But again, he could have been the second coming. We don't know.
I want to defend Leandrin because she's so smart. She's such a smart black Aja. I want to defend Leandrin real quick here because she recruited some yellow Aja to be on her side, and this helped her because we see her get really messed up in this fight. She's puking blood, and if you're puking blood, you're kind of done for. And we see like a yellow sister like healing her mid-battle. So, Leandrin, good job.
Unless you drank a bunch of blood and, like, you're puking it up, then you're actually pretty good.
Yeah, probably, but I don't think she drank blood before this scene. I think that blood came from her innards.
It would be a cool David Blaine type of technique of, hey, play possum, drink a bunch of blood before battle. When you think you're cornered, throw it up like David Blaine can on command. And then they're like, oh, yeah, he's done for. Stab, stab, laser beam, lightning bolt, laser beam, lightning bolt.
Maybe that's what happened here is like Leandrin like fake threw up some blood. So they'd be like, oh, yeah, we got her. And then the yellow sister was just pretending, like just going along with the miming there to heal her. And then she's like, I'm back. Yeah, I think that was a fake out just to show some strength. God, we're good.
Sweet Shot of Time is brought to you by Zencastr. Zencastr is the way we record Sweet Shot of Time. We hook up with our guests via video and we record it on audio. Recently, we've been doing video podcasts with the cast of Time Bandits. It's easy using Zencastr. You can record video or audio. You can also edit your podcast or your video via Zencastr. Join Zencastr using my promo code Sweet Child of Time and you can get 30% off Zencastr. If you're ready to start your podcast, it's time to share your story. Share it with Zencastr. That promo code once again, Sweet Child of Time at Zencastr.com.
Next up, we got the 13th Depository. This sounds like a very Harry Potter thing to me. This is where they keep all their secret weapons. If this was in our world, this would be where the nuclear codes are. This is like where the stuff that can blow up the earth is. We call these things Angriel and Terangriel.
Guess what? I knew that. You want to know why? Because I played the video game and those are in there.
That's right. Yes. We're old hats at this Wheel of Time stuff. Yeah. We see Naomi. I'm sorry, I keep mispronouncing her name. She has this hungry look on her face as she's looking at these Terangriel. So we kind of know something's up. At this point in the battle, this is when Jane shows up and she's green. She's this brown-haired, curly-haired, beautiful Aja. She takes out a red sister immediately, but then the other red sister defends the warders. I want to say something about Naomi. When she did her thing and she was like, I'm not taking your bullshit anymore. Bow. Did you notice anything about Verin and her fake out there?
No.
Okay, good. Okay. So Naomi did her thing where she said, I don't like your bullshit. And at the same time that she threw her magic at the two ladies, immediately beforehand, it was apparent to me, even from the first watch, that Verin threw up a block. She had this white thing that she threw up right before it hit. Then you see a clear shot of Verin and Adelis. I'll make a video of this. I'll put that on the screen. And you clearly see, like, Adelis has the yellow stuff all over her. Verin does not. They fall to the ground. Adelis is unconscious. Verin has her eyes open and she's looking. So you can kind of see that she's conscious and she's just pretending to be knocked out at this point.
Okay.
So she's quick on the draw there. Verin, she rules. She's not in my top 3, but I'd say she's at least in my top 5, top 10, top 7, top 7.
What about top 8 on MySpace?
That's right. She would definitely make the top 8 because I said 7 and 8 is 1 greater than 7.
Did you have a MySpace?
Of course I did. That's how I first got online. Yeah.
Heck yeah, dude.
I don't think they're still up anymore unless you have a Wayback Machine.
No, you can still look at them.
I had a very prolific MySpace. You got to check it out. I was into like a real poetry thing at the time. I was playing in a nu metal band at the time. So a lot of those nu metal songs that we wrote are up there. Medusa Switch. I think I was going through a rock star phase at the time. That was fun stuff back in MySpace.
Rockstar, the energy drink, Rockstar, the video game company, or Rockstar, the ideology?
Rockstar as in going to bars where there's 36 people and you play until they're drunk. That kind of Rockstar. Yeah. All right. So yeah, we talked about the Verin block out. Leanne, Mrs. Clang Clang with her big like stick. She goes beast mode with that thing and like takes someone out. I really dug that. You had to have noticed that one, right?
Uh-huh. Beast mode with that thing, that's what Haktua should be saying now.
Oh yeah. We don't talk about her anymore. I wanted to bring this up, though, because Leanne, first off, we've seen her in season 1 and season 2. She wears that big dumb jacket and like she's very serene and she doesn't even smile or she's just really just monotone 100%. So seeing her go psycho here and go crazy, seeing any Aes Sedai go crazy is cool, but especially Leanne. So we want to like kind of put a pin in that because this is very unlike her. But she's, good guy side. She's there, Blue Aja. So let's see. Yeah, here we go. The Black Aja, they do their little link up thing. They blow the place up. They do this Scooby-Doo knockout. This is very convenient where all the good guys are like knocked unconscious and they all kind of regain consciousness at the same time after the battle has been lost. It's like a battle brain blast. It doesn't kill you, but it gives the bad guys enough time to run away. So I don't know. Did you have anything to say about the big blow up and the big come to?
No, I liked it. I liked every part of this.
Okay. So, yeah, next up here is, we see Attalus wake up and Verin is kind of like cradling her because Viren's all good. She blocked that thing. But Attalus has amnesia. She doesn't know who Verin is. So we leave those two in kind of like a questioning state if she's going to come to later, hopefully. She lived, but will she still have powers? I don't know. Naomi hustles through the street, meets up with the Black Aja. So it's Naomi and Leandrin. They're the two reds, and now they're Black Aja. We got Jane, who is like, in my opinion, the super hot one that reps the green Aja, and she's also black. We got Joiya. We talked about her at great length. She's the traitor. She's blue. That makes it even worse, James. Even worse, because she is a blue, supposed to be like the best of the Ajas, because Moraine is a blue, Swan was a blue, like we're all true blue. And so it's really a shot in the gut knowing that a blue Aja is over there on that side.
I look at them as all equal.
Equally shitty.
No, not equally shitty, just equal.
Okay. Well, we got a yellow. We got to escalate the yellow because she's the healer. We're going to need her. And then we have two more green unknown sisters and then another red unknown sister. So they got like a whole little gang of them, about a dozen or so. We leave this little cold open. They're about to have a showdown because like Alana shows up. You can almost hear like Clint Eastwood whistling in the background. They got Ivan and Maxim. And it doesn't look like their chances are very good here because they're up against like Leandrin, who is pretty strong too. So it's like one against one Aja, two warders against this whole gang of black. So we'll see how that turns out March 13th, I guess.
But Leandrin, her tummy's still feeling a little sour from drinking all that blood.
Yeah, well, I think the healing process also includes like, a
But she was never healed because it was just fake. She was throwing up that blood.
That's right, yeah. So why are you even bringing it up? She's totally good.
Also, after I throw up, I'm out for the day. I don't care if it's performative or not.
Usually I can't just do it once. It usually triggers like a whole escalation of like whole series of throw ups until I can't throw anything up anymore. And then, it takes all my energy and then I lay in bed for like about 48 hours.
Well,
but I
throw up a lot just because like I have Crohn's or whatever, and not because I'm like sick. It all gets evacuated from me in like a minute, and then my voice is hoarse because it's screaming, dude. You've heard my podcast about the time I was at like that country dairy restaurant and everyone heard me throw up, but yeah, it's
Do you
bad.
get the red eyes too when you throw up? Because that happens. Me too. Fun. Well, did you have anything else besides throw up to add to this before we go on to our Matt video?
This is how you do a teaser, guys.
Right on. Yeah. Some podcasts and YouTubers have like been putting out constant stuff. Like anytime like somebody even puts up like a still image, they'll do like an hour-long podcast discussing that still image. So some of these podcasts out here have really done their due diligence, I should say.
I'm gonna fight that, okay?
Okay.
You don't need to do that, guys. Just kind of build up some stuff and then talk about, instead 40 minutes on a single image. I think 45 minutes on an 11-minute trailer, that's too aggressive. We're going a little too long. That's my fault, but that's because I'm not just dissecting this stuff. I'm talking about David Blaine magic tricks of throwing up blood.
Maybe you shouldn't take my exaggeration as an exact science because I do have a tendency to exaggerate a bit.
Yeah, especially on like if things are fun or not.
Especially that.
Steve, you know I love you, right?
I think, I don't know. I mean, sometimes every day is a little different.
No, you are one of my best friends, and this is all gentle, fun, love razzing.
This is kind of gentle compared to some razzing I've gotten from Lindsey and Heather, and of course my own daughter. So this is very gentle. I can walk away from this with a smile. But yeah, I lost focus of a point I was about to make. It doesn't matter anyway, because we're going to go into, I want to defend these other podcasts. And they're mostly YouTube video podcasts, Wad Up, Dusty Wheel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They put out daily content. So of course they have to, like anything that comes out ad nauseum, they're going to talk about it. And some of their podcasts and their shows that they do, especially if there's nothing going on in the Wheel of Time universe, which there hasn't been for like about a year up until now. So in that year time, they were still doing, daily shows, weekly shows. So, anything Wheel of Time related that they could think of to talk about. Who's your favorite Aja? What do you think of Lan? They put constant content out there, whereas we're not dissecting every single little thing that comes out. There's interviews that we could be talking about. There's other promos we could be talking about, but we're just getting to the meat of it here because it's been discussed by lots of other people. But the Matt has not now. This Matt video came out about a week ago. Very easy to find. I think you just look for season 3 promo Matt video. And it's got the actor Donald Finn here, and he's talking to the camera about he's being Matt, and he's talking to us about his vibe. So first off, I wanted to know what you thought about this. This offers us like a little glimpse at how Matt might be season 3. What's your impression of what you got here?
He's confident. He's no longer being polluted by that dagger he had. I like it. It just seems like he now knows that he is important. He has found value within himself, and now he's going to be a productive member of the team because he no longer hates himself.
Yeah, okay, there you go. We see some shots of him like messing around with that horn. Like there's one shot of him like in the window with the horn, and then we see another shot. Egwene has the horn in her hand, and she's kind of messing around with it. So that kind of makes me think that they take this serious object, this Horn of Valyr, and they're just kind of goofing around with it one day. I guess we're going to see that scene in season 3 somewhere. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but it could be just behind the scenes footage, or was it like color graded to look like it's part of the actual stuff?
I got the sense that when he was talking to the camera, that was just for the promo, and all the scenes that we saw of him knocking over swords and stuff are scenes that we're going to see in season 3, including the scene with him at the window and with Egwene. See, I think he's got his vibe down because this is Matt 3.0. First we had Matt, who was a young guy from Two Rivers, best friends with Rand, a jokester, liked to pull pranks on people. Then Matt 2.0 is the Dagger Matt. And of course, that's a really upsetting Matt. He had a lot of he couldn't do any growing. He was possessed. But now we have this new 3.0 Matt, which is like not depressed, tortured Matt, but it's also not young pranking Matt. It's more of like a grown-up version of his truest young self.
He's a responsible scamp.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. And that is kind of describes how he is in the book too. So that's why I wanted to say they kind of got, the vibe down right. But some things I'm kind of pushing back a little bit. First off, he starts out saying, well, well, well. And I thought that was first out of character immediately because I don't remember. That just doesn't seem like a thing that Matt would start a conversation with. But I'll go with it. He says, I am indeed the horn blower. And he talks about blowing the horn at the Battle of Falm, turning the tide of the battle. This is very unlike any Matt that I've ever known because he's never boasted of anything. In fact, he likes to boast about how lazy he is and how he doesn't care about anything. So it's unusual to hear him like boasting that he did this heroic deed. And then, of course, the next line, he's like, you might want to thank me. That's not necessary. Aw, that's more Matt being like the humble type guy that it kind of rubbed me a a little bit wrong that he was bragging about that horn thing. That's the main thing I wanted to bring up, I guess.
This felt very much like when you're watching Fox Kids or any cartoon block, and in between, they will show, just to promote a show, they will have the voice actor in character talk to the audience to kind of break the fourth wall and be like, hey guys, are you watching the new episode of Beetlejuice? I'm Beetlejuice. And it's like, well, this is uncharacteristic things for Beetlejuice, but it's just making it so Beetlejuice is sort of the actor, but is still Beetlejuice promoting the show. This is Matt promoting the show, but you have to break that fourth wall. Elf does it all the time because there is Elf. Elf is actually the actor playing Elf of his life story. That is Elf.
Okay. Yeah, I like this explanation. I feel a little better about this now. Because, that does make a little more sense. It's like as if they grabbed the guy, Matt, brought him into the studio and said, here, we need to make a promo. Can you do this for our show? I guess that's right. It just seems weird that he would boast. But he did wind up saying something like, I'm a simple man with simple pleasures. And that's true. That's Matt to the core. Talks about like the simple things he likes, the games of dice, goofing around. But the things that he didn't bring up, which are very, very Matt oriented. He didn't say he likes a good cuddle now and then because that's a big Matt thing. He loves to get down and cuddle. He likes to find some ladies to cuddle up with. And if things go really well, then Matt likes to escalate it with a slap and a tickle. That's what they call it in the Wheel of Time world. So I thought it would have been more Matt appropriate if maybe he had brought some of these things up, but they left all the lady stuff out. I guess is okay, but it really would have been fun to hear him say he's down with a cuddle or something along those lines.
Well, that might be specific to you, Steve.
Maybe so. Maybe I've been watching too much 100 Years of Solitude where there's like sex and nudity all over the place. So that's what I'm looking for now, I suppose, in my media.
Yucky. Get that stuff out of here.
Well, we're almost done with that because Lindsey and I will be recording episode 8 of 100 Years of Solitude pretty soon. Before we do our rundown, though, James, I want to make sure that you remember a few key things about our show. Very easy things. So I've arranged 5 questions here for you, James. I hope you can get these right. I expect you to get a 100%. Here we go. Can you name the 3 boys from the 2 rivers, please?
Matt, Randy, and Perrin.
Here you go. Randall. We call him Randall. Okay. What was the evil peddler's name that followed Matt around because of the dagger?
Town's friend's name. It's something like that.
The last syllable was correct. Do that again.
Fane?
Fane. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes, his name is Padden Fane. That's correct.
I was like, Perrin Fane. That doesn't sound right, but it might.
I think, I mean, it's like one of those things where like your first instinct is usually your best, is usually the correct instinct.
Oh, I was just watching Alex Lifesfell. Is that his name from Rush? He's talking about how he would only do 5 takes of a solo because anything more, you're just going to be like, well, no, it's something in the first 5.
I actually agree with that. I'm glad you're getting into Rush. But first off, what's the name of the Jimmy Fallon looking Jesus dude that's the Dragon Reborn fake guy? You remember his name?
He looks nothing like Jimmy Fallon.
Okay, that's your opinion. But what is his name?
That's the guy who got stilled, right?
Yes. Good memory.
The false dragon.
That's what they call him.
But he doesn't have another name?
His name is Logain. We got to remember
Logain, the false dragon.
Yeah, kind of like, just remember like Wolverine, Logan. It's very similar to that. All right. Who is the cool, long-haired gleeman who plays guitar and sang The Man Who Can't Forget? What was his name?
Oh, man, the gleeman. That's how I referred to him as.
I mean, that's correct. You don't remember his name, though?
No, I don't. I know he, possibly died or maybe didn't, or is possibly a dark friend. We don't know.
He's on the credits for season 3, so absolutely we'll be seeing the man again. Name is Tom Maryland, so be on the lookout for him. And the same dude that was on 1899. We love this guy on Sweet Shot of Time. All right, last question. What color Aja was Moraine part of?
That's meringue, right?
That's meringue, yes.
The blue.
Yes, okay. I just want to make sure you remember that. Excellent. You got, I don't know, I helped you along with that one. I helped you cheat. But yeah, I want you to remember these names because these are people that we're definitely going to be talking to again soon. In just a couple of weeks, we're on the wind down here now, James. We're almost at the 1 hour mark. So I have lots of plugs here at the end, but I'm going to let you go first because I'm a gentleman. Or did you have anything else you wanted to bring up Wheel of Time wise?
I thought one of the questions was going to be was, James, what's my Amazon Prime password? Because I need that, Steve. We are no longer logged in.
I will get that to you off air, of course, James.
Oh, no, I'll edit it out. I'll bleep it. I'm kidding. I won't, guys.
I don't trust you. I'm not going to say a word, but I do want to know what if you have any plugs or anything, because I haven't talked to you in person for like about a month or more. So what kind of stuff has Marshland Monster, a.k.a. James McCullum, been up to?
Hey, guys, listen to the Marshland Media podcast wherever podcasts are found. There you can find Shuffling the Deck, the definitive introductory ICP playlist podcast, which is done. That's Sean and I. We listened to all of Insane Clown Posse's discography, and we picked out the best songs so you don't have to sift through it. And Death to Squids. That's Jose and I. We are watching Getting High, some sci-fi action movies. We just started Highlander. I'm excited to watch Highlander 2, especially after reading the production of it. It's nuts, guys. I'm pumped for it. And you'll get Sweaty Time Pro Wrestling, where Sean and I are going through Lucha Underground, the wrestling promotion. Then listen to Mostly Speaking Sentai wherever podcasts are found. And head over to patreon.com/MLM Pod, where for $5 a month, you get exclusive content every single Friday. It's a rotating schedule. Like the first Friday will be the same thing all the time. The second will be the same, and so on. But we added a new show that if people of Wheel of Time, it seems like you guys would probably like book-related things.
Absolutely.
I started a new thing called Literary Speed Run, where I have a guest come on and I read them. I am the narrator of a choose-your-own-adventure book, and we try to get as many endings within 75 minutes as we possibly can. It's a very fun show. I'm excited to do more of them, baby. And that's it.
All right, that sounds good. I got two things I want to say about that. First off, the Highlander stuff. You're doing Death to Squids. Highlander 1, I've probably seen it more than a dozen times. I can recite the lines verbatim. I'm insulted I was not invited to be on that podcast. Highlander 2, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it made me change my mind about the Highlander franchise. So I just wanted to point that out. And then you mentioned this Choose Your Own Adventure story. That sounds great. I love hearing that. I haven't listened to the newest episode, but I want to. So yeah, that sounds like a fun add-on to the podcast world there in Marshland Media.
Well, I would like to say, everyone, remember, Steve lives in Virginia and I live in Chicago. Death to Squids, we don't do that remote. We weren't going to be like, hey, man, do you want to drive 12 hours to do this show?
I would have. I did it last time. Just ask me.
That's because you were in the area, sort of, kind of.
No, I came special for you. I mean, that's exactly what I did.
No.
I need to get to my plugs, though. We'll fight later. I want to talk about Introvoid. I just released a new song. It's already out at this point. It's a song called Winden is a Festering Wound. It is a depressing song, so come get sad with me over at Introvoid, available anywhere music is. It's a song based around, of course, the series Dark, specifically the character Katarina. Also, I've been on some podcasts lately, doing a podcast tour. I was on the Nap Time podcast recently. That's N.P.P.Time. It's a YouTube video podcast. I was on there with Erica. We had a very spirited and positive discussion about our favorite books, TV shows, movies, and bands. It was an awesome talk, and she's already invited me back, and I've invited her back. She's my new pal. And I was also on the Written and Watched podcast with Justin Duke. We had a sparring match about the book Fight Club. We talked about Fight Club, the novel, and he is going to have me back to talk about the movie Fight Club, where we'll have a brawl about that. So that's obviously one of my favorite movies. So I had a great time talking with him about that. Written and Watched with Justin Duke.
Maybe if that goes well, I could come on and talk about Fight Club 2 and Fight Club 3. We
discussed Fight Club 2 and our ambivalence towards the existence of it and also our curiosity of what it might be. So I think that might have to happen, James. Put a mark on your calendar because that sounds like a great idea.
Because both of those are comics, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, yeah. We have, I think, 3 at the store, so all I would need to do is order 2.
Please do so, and we'll talk about that off air, but we're going to wrap up Sweet Child of Time. Thank you so much for listening this far, and please join us as we do our journey through season 3 of Wheel of Time. We'll be releasing episodes regularly, so we'll recap all of them. Any last words, James, before we head out of here?
Only I want everyone out there to find water and shade.
That's what I was going to say too. So yeah, take that for what it is. Bye everybody. Till next week.
Bye-bye.